Good evening, class. This is Sydney Brown coming to you to report discussion 2, chapters 4 through 6. I'm at work. I'm a nanny. Don't be alarmed. Um, but I took a bunch of notes and ready to go. So, starting off with chapter 4, what stood out to me is style switching. We talked about that in class. I think Dr. Russell does a really good job with this because in the moments where he's trying to be serious and actually get a message across, he articulates himself and he is really intellectual. But then when he's just like joking around with us or making us feel comfortable in or trying to make us laugh or giving us a recap, he may talk in ebonics or be funny and use slang and stuff like that. So it's just basically being able to appear to your co-culture or just the dominant culture. So that's how you tie those two things in. Another thing we talked about was semantics, which is the study of the meaning or the association with the feelings of a word. We talked about the evolution of the N-word, what it actually meant, what feelings may have arisen from that, which kind of goes in with denotation and connotation, because it's like the literal meaning, which is denotation, versus connotation, which is the implied meaning. So we just kind of tied all that in with what we learned with the N-word in class. Also, in chapter 4, there's slang, which is really prevalent in our generation because everything is instant and really condensed. So people use slang tremendously, and that kind of goes along with euphemism a little bit because we take words that have like these really harsh histories and then we kind of try to make light of them, like the N-word and stuff like that. And we talked about all of that, and we even actually brought up a book and talked about other like condescending terms and how other cultures don't embrace them, so we don't really know why we do. So that's that. Going on to chapter 5, something that stood out to me was deceiving, and that's how you purposely would mislead others by not really matching up your nonverbal cues with what you're trying to actually convey as a message. I think that's important to be able to know how to distinguish that. I think Dylan Roof did that also. I know I talked about him in my last video, but in the hearing, if you've noticed, he wasn't really talking. I just feel like he's not remorseful at all, and I don't even know if he is or not, but he doesn't seem as though he's killed 9 people. He's just always like really mundane and like monotone. I don't know. So I think that's like deceiving. Also learned in chapter 5 chronemics, or I don't know how to pronounce that, but basically the study of how people use time with communication, and Dr. Russell was telling us like how to apply that to our speeches and how timing's everything, how you choose to use your hand gestures whenever you choose to use inflection in your voice when you're delivering volume, all those things, how that all ties in with time and how time is of the essence in giving a speech. And I also like how class was conducted the day we actually did give our speeches. I think the competitive nature of the two teams helps us really rise to the occasion, and I think it was really cool that we were all able to do well in that and help each other, and so that's really cool. Another thing in chapter 5 that stood out to me was the self-monitoring part, and that's just like the willingness to change behavior to fit situations, and its effect on others, and the ability to regulate nonverbal cues and all that stuff. And I feel like we really internalize that and learn that as well in giving our speeches. So that's always good when you can apply all that to what you're doing. Moving on to chapter 6. This one is really cool and simple, but it's also it carries because you learn the difference between listening and hearing. And again, hearing is like innate, because if you can hear, if your hearing isn't bad, you can hear. It's passive. It doesn't require a lot of energy, as opposed to being able to listen, which is more active. And being an active listener and doing it effectively helps you to communicate effectively, because it's part of it, which goes along with the Hurrier model, which is a 6-stage model. It has to do with hearing, understanding, remembering, interpreting, evaluating, and responding. We talked about that in class 2, how to the difference between retaining knowledge and learning, and just regurgitating stuff and actually retaining stuff. So all that ties in. Another thing we talked about in class, big ups to Dr. Russell for being on TV and being able to represent, you know, a knowledgeable standpoint on this whole Black Lives Matter and Confederate thing. And I remember you saying that silent protesting and petitions are the best way to bring about change. So that stood out to me. And all in all, I'm excited about where the class is going. I think I'm over my time limit. And I'll see you guys in class tomorrow. Bye.